Welcome to Spec Proof, and this time I have this first generation 05 CLS 350 to poke around. The CLS has always been a very special Mercedes for me. I remember clearly when I first saw some images about the Vision CLS, which was the prototype version of the stunning C219 CLS. The year was 2003 and I was leafing through a local weekly car magazine at my grandparents' place. It seemed so outlandish and kinda strange, un-Mercedes-like, in a very, very good way, of course. Then soon after, the production version followed, which made its debut at New York International Car Show in spring of 2004. And it was almost identical to the prototype, which is rather rare occasion, even today. At the time, my passion for cars was rapidly blooming, and it really was a good time for a young, aspiring car enthusiast. Me double-O's were very experimental times for Mercedes. Remember the R-Class? I know I do. And there's no need to mention the almighty, slightly misunderstood SLR McLaren. Before we carry on, I'd like to give a shout out to autolevi.ee, which is an online car renting service similar to Turo, where you can rent regular people cars like this CLS. I have used Autolevi for years now, and I have been very pleased with the service. The selection is very wide, from cheap eco-boxes to high-end SUVs and convertibles. You can browse the cars at autolevi.ee. The link is also in the description below. So, back to the video. The first generation CLS is definitely one of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful modern Mercedes ever produced, next to the SLS AMG, the R230 SL, and the C215 CL. In my opinion, the first gen original pre-facelift version of the CLS is the best looking. The second generation is also decent looking, especially the rear, but the interior is lacking some special factor and looks too regular compared to the first generation. That said, I love the wagon or estate version of the second gen CLS, which was named Shooting Brake. This was a really bold move by Mercedes to tie practicality of the estate with the gorgeous lines of the sedan. What about the current generation CLS? Well, in my opinion, sadly, Mercedes has dropped the ball and the newest CLS has lost its mojo. It looks slightly out of proportions and doesn't look that special. Maybe it's too similar to the cheaper CLA or vice versa. There's also rumors that this will be the end of the CLS. Fortunately, we still have a spiritual successor to the CLS, the more upmarket, larger and faster AMG GT 4-door, so overall, it's not that bad. But there's more than just the stunning beauty of the original CLS. The importance of the Vision CLS and the production version is way more significant than we think. You see, Mercedes marketed the CLS as the 4-door coupe, which was and still is a rather debatable subject. They really wanted the customers to believe that they were buying a practical coupe instead of the regular sedan, despite the door count. Furthermore, it was based on the W211 E-Class. Even the wheelbase remained the same. The idea was to take an existing platform, suit it up, make it a bit more exclusive and upmarket, and of course, ask more money for it. And this is where the importance begins. Thanks to the beauty of the original CLS, many rivals and even non-rivals followed up and released also astonishing answers. It was like the bookkeepers were supposed to be a little bit more quiet and the designers could finally do their thing. First one to copy the CLS recipe was Volkswagen. It took them more than 3 years. So in early 2008, the Passat CC was introduced. Later they changed the name to CC to to emphasize its coolness and to separate from the Passat line furthermore, although it was based on the regular Passat. And don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing the CLS to the CC. What about the direct competitors? Well, they also took their time. Audi released the A6-based A7 in late 2010. The 6 Series Grand Coupe, which was based, you guessed it, a 5 Series, was released in mid-2012. Some might ask, what about the Porsche Panamera? Well, it's definitely not a direct competitor to the CLS because of the sheer size of the thing and most importantly, the price difference. In my opinion, the Panamera is on the same bar as the S-Class. Let's focus on this particular car then. It's a rather early example from January of 2005. Specification-wise, it's decently equipped. Highlights include upgraded Harman Kardon Logic 7 sound system, memory package for front seats and mirrors, 4-zone AC, command system, aka the large screen, heated and ventilated front seats, multi-contour driver seat, and one of my personal favorites, wooden and leather steering wheel. There's plenty more, but I find the others rather unremarkable. As new, this very example would have cost around 74,600 euros, including around 18,600 euros in options. Not bad. Personally, I was most excited about the Harman Kardon sound system and the ventilated seats. If you watched my previous video about the Range Rover Sport, I wasn't that impressed about the Harman Kardon unit. The CLS system was way better. It wasn't that good as I remembered from the early days, but still I was impressed. On the ventilated seats department, I expected them to be more noticeable, or shall I say, I expected to freeze my butt. I drove the car around for 3 days, and every single day was unusually hot, so they were very handy and did their job well. What about the rest of the optional extras? Did the first owner skip anything? Here's some of the highlights from the options list. First off, my very favorite option of all time, the adaptive cruise control, or as Mercedes calls it, the Distronic. Electric trunk lead, keyless go, semi-active air suspension, Airmatic DC, electric rear window blind, and the last, but not least, the dynamic multi-contour front seats, which adjust themselves while cornering. Compared to the E-Class, which the CLS is based on, the engine choice was kept minimal to emphasize the exclusivity factor even more. No 4 cylinders were offered, unlike its successors, so there was no underpowered versions of the C219 CLS. Standard options were equivalent to the E-Class. That meant the CLS 350 got the same stuff. I'm not gonna stop here for long, but the highlights include this electronic lead for the storage, foldable rear headrests, and analog clock in the gauge cluster. In 2008, the facelift was introduced. The 55 AMG was replaced by more powerful 63 AMG, and the entry-level CLS 280 was introduced. By the way, a year later, they decided to change the badging to 300. In my humble opinion, the facelift was a small disappointment. I liked the original pre-facelift version way more. They tried too hard to modernize the look and overall it felt forced. And that steering wheel, well, it took years to grow on me. Newly introduced alloy wheels were bland. Overall, the look of the facelift version was very spec dependent. That said, the 63 looked decent, although I still prefer the 55 version, which has always been my dream CLS. So what about the driving part? Well, I'm very impressed. Mercedes have managed to achieve a near-perfect balance between comfort and sport. It's very Mercedes-like while driving, dignified, but with an athletic edge. Variable steering does nice job, and the steering feel is spot on. Just the right amount of information. It isn't as isolated as the S-Class, which is suitable by the looks of this car. Overall, the steering is very confidence-inspiring for a Mercedes. They have definitely calibrated it towards a sportier setting. That said, for my taste, the steering is a little bit too heavy at low speeds. At least I felt that way initially. After a day behind the steering wheel, I was used to it, so it's really nitpicking. Most surprising for me was the driver's seating position. Visibility-wise, I expected it to be tank-like. It's a low car and the windows are rather narrow. But on the contrary, they did some kind of magic with the seating position. Visibility is near perfect when you look ahead, and the feel is something else while driving. It's different from all of the cars I have ever driven, but I really cannot put my finger on it. The special factor is kinda similar to the Porsche Panamera. While reversing, the visibility isn't that good, but still, I expected it to be worse. Most of the materials used in the interior are high quality. The dashboard is covered in leather, and the wood looks super nice. I have this weird tendency to prefer wood among leather or any other material in the interiors. What I most love about the original CLS is the harmony between the exterior and interior. It looks special and well thought out, both inside and out. My favorite feature about the interior is this slab of wood facing the front passenger. Then there's this narrow dashboard. And last but not least, the design of the rear passenger area. Yes, it's cramped back there, but it's so cozy and cute. Again, sitting in the back makes you feel also special. And again, I really cannot tell you why. Maybe that's the main reason for the special feeling. And you have everything in the rear. As standard, you get the rear ventilation, and this one is equipped with the 4-zone climate system. There's also rear heated seats and an electric window blind available. The trunk/boot is surprisingly large, and this one is even more practical thanks to the optional ski hatch. Regarding the practicality of this car, I'm very impressed, mostly because of the lowered expectations. When the car is designed with beauty as the most important, the practicality is usually compromised, but definitely not with the original CLS. The 3.5-liter V6 makes wonderful, tamed sound while accelerating. Modest exhaust rumble is very satisfying. Power delivery is effortless for this unit. The C219 was one of the first to receive this new generation V6 engine. Same goes with the transmission. The 7-speed 7G-tronic was also rather new at the time, and cooperation with the engine is almost seamless. The shifts are there, you can feel them, but they feel natural and give you a pleasant feedback. Maybe it shouldn't be like this, but I'm not bothered at all. So, we are almost finished with this astonishing car, but the important and debatable question remains: is the CLS a 4-door coupe like Mercedes insists? Or is it just a regular, sporty sedan? First off, we have to define the term coupe. Answer from a Cambridge dictionary: a car with a fixed roof, 2 doors, 2 or 4 seats, and usually a sloping back. So, there's no doubt. According to the dictionary, Mercedes is kinda correct. The CLS has a sloping roofline and 4 seats, but 4 doors instead of 2. That's why they call it a 4-door coupe, not T coupe. But historically, there used to be 2-door sedans also. Next up, let's see how Mercedes themselves define a coupe. First, the internal chassis designation system, which consists of a letter and 3 following numbers. Sedans and off-roaders start with the W, estates or station wagons start with S, roadsters start with R, and coupes, yes, you guessed it, with a C in the front. In the CLS case, it starts with the C, so it's a coupe according to the Mercedes chassis designation system. But there's more in Mercedes coupe checklist. Lack of window frames, check. Polished torque piece, which has always been characteristic to the Mercedes coupes, cabriolets and roadsters. Sedans and wagons are always missing that feature. The CLS belongs to the chrome piece club, so that's a check. And finally, what about the different DMVs or national transportation institutions? In Estonia, all of the CLS models are classified as sedans. In Sweden, on the other hand, they belong to the coupe class. But what Dag thinks? Well, he isn't a DMV or a national transportation institution, but according to the Cars and Beats, CLS is a sedan. So here we go. In conclusion, it doesn't really matter how you call it. The CLS is so gorgeous, so who really cares? But if you do care, don't forget to use the asterisk. So it could be a coupe or a sedan. Thanks for watching.